All right, ladies and gentlemen, today we are talking San Antonio Spurs because they remind me of something I used to do as a kid. Like back in high school, I would find a young, fun, rebuilding-esque team in 2K, right? A team that has either a young player I'm really trying to play with, or just a bunch of young talent. In this case, with San Antonio, we're talking a bunch of young talent. I'm unloading pretty much every single old player on the roster, which they have essentially, maybe done's the wrong word, but there's not too many old dudes on the San Antonio Spurs right now. It's an extremely young team, actually. I tank for an entire season. I give all of my young cats as much playing time as humanly possible. I clear the cap. I tank the season. I get a top 5 undisputed lottery draft pick. And then that next season, I either, make a huge splash in free agency or make a small splash in free agency or what have you, and I have a top 5 pick. And so in my last video where I talked about the San Antonio Spurs, which, might I add, shout out to San Antonio, man. You guys are literally one of the most passionate, loving fans that I've seen in the entire league. Like, seriously, straight up, I've been doing this. I've made over 2,000 videos across a ton of channels, and Spurs fans, they blessed my last Spurs video, man. They gave nothing but love, and I seriously appreciate you guys so much. So if you're new here, hit that sub button. I post daily NBA content. I'll post as many Spurs videos as you guys want. If this video gets 100 likes, I'll post a Spurs video in the next handful of days, because I understand you can look at this roster from the outside looking in and be like, well, they were above 500 coming off a play-in tournament. Like, they're not going to be like that this year. No shit. That's actually kind of the point. And to hear also that Popovich likes coaching with these young guns, it makes me even more excited for the Spurs' future. So I'll look at their starting 5. Let's just get through their starting 5 real quick so we can kind of dive into this video. At point guard, you're going to be looking at either Trey Jones, and I'm a Duke bandwagon fan, so I freaking love Trey Jones, who's Tyus Jones' brother, or Josh Primo, who's coming off a rookie season. Both of them are kind of coming off rookie seasons where they got they played a good amount of games, but the playing time wasn't always necessarily there. Like Josh Primo, this past season only per 36 for both Jones and Primo are much better than these stats. But for Primo, 50 games, 16 starts. Only 19 minutes a game, 5 points, a little over 5 points per game, almost 6, couple of rebounds, couple of assists. You have nothing crazy because he's not playing much. If you look at the per 36 for both of those two cats, that's when we start looking at double-digit point numbers. We start looking at some actually good defensive statistics. But you'll have one of those two cats run it up at point guard. I'm actually kind of hoping they try Trey Jones for the first half of the season at the very least. And then you still have Josh Richardson on your team. Keep in mind, though, Joshua Primo is only 19 years old. So he's extremely young. He's extremely raw. The point being is this. Whether you have Trey Jones starting at point guard or Primo starting at point guard, or you have Primo starting at shooting guard or coming off the bench, both of those two cats, in fact, all of these young Spurs, they're going to see plenty of playing time this upcoming season because they did a great job, in my opinion, at unloading worthless, it sounds super rude, but worthless veterans, guys that it just doesn't matter. Here's the way San Antonio's set up the next couple of years. You have a shit ton of draft picks, you have a ton of salary cap, and basically in 2 seasons from now, 2024, when the salary cap rises, a team like San Antonio, who has acquired all this young first-round talent, lottery picks, what have you, if they get Victor Wembanyama, it's game over, and the salary cap, and all their future draft assets, San Antonio long-term is looking extremely good. This upcoming season, if you're a Spurs fan, it's not going to be great. It's not going to be great. Take it from a Houston Rockets guy. There are going to be some games where you're like, this is stupid. What the hell is going on? But that's all part of the process. It's all part of the process. At 3, you probably are going to be looking at Devin Vassell, and I'm extremely big on Devin, and I am a little biased because I picked him up in fantasy basketball this past season, and he was a hidden, undrafted fantasy basketball gem, bro. At 4, you got Kelvin Johnson. Now, I don't think that mainstream NBA media realizes how good Kelvin Johnson was this past year. I actually have his stats. He jumped up every single stat line. Yeah, he saw like 2 more minutes of playing time, 3 more minutes of playing time. Guys, we're talking like 13 points to 17 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, almost a steal per game. And the coolest part is, man, he took over 5 threes a night with a 40% clip. So Kelvin Johnson at 22 years old, entering his 4th year, I think, although he had a quote-unquote breakout season this past year, he's going to break out even more. He's going to break out even more. And it gets me thinking about DeJounte. They made a great trade in DeJounte Murray because he wasn't going to, either if he was going to re-sign or the Spurs were going to re-sign, the timelines with what they have right now, especially with 3 new draft picks that we'll talk about in a second coming in, doesn't make much sense. It doesn't make much sense. And do you want DeJounte Murray to be your maxed player that you think can help propel you into the finals and eventually win an NBA Finals? No disrespect to DeJounte Murray, but I would think there is an argument to be made that that you could probably find a more efficient player than DeJounte Murray to pay the most amount of money on your roster to help propel you to a championship. And that, no disrespect to DeJounte, because he is one hell of a basketball player, but I think he's perfectly suited for a team like the Atlanta Hawks. And then at 5, you got Jakob Poeltl. I actually don't know what's going to happen with the future of Jakob Poeltl. If you're a Spurs fan watching this video right now and you don't mind, go ahead, drop a comment down below. What are your thoughts on Jakob Poeltl? Because I actually love the buyout signing that they had, Isaiah Roby. The reason being is Oklahoma City is not looking to spend actually any money, because this upcoming season, once the CBA comes into agreement, once we're done with our lockout, so it won't probably happen this next offseason, but it might. Oklahoma City is going to have like 3 supermax slots. So Isaiah Roby, you got a stud in him. Or maybe stud's the wrong word, but you have a high upside big man in Isaiah Roby. He also was on my fantasy basketball team, so I am slightly biased. But I'm hopeful for him. He provides good depth. He's going to see playing time, just like Doug McDermott. Nice kind of, I don't know if I want to call him necessarily a veteran piece, but he kind of is at this point, I guess, a veteran piece. You got Keita Bates-Diop from Ohio State University. I don't think he'll play too much, but he's always been a player that entices me. Don't want to forget about Zach Collins. I don't know, bro. I'm not too big on Zach Collins because my old freshman year roommate went to high school, same grade with Zach Collins, and said he was a DB. So I'm like, Zach Collins can do his thing, but he's actually, like, in my opinion, a relatively underrated, efficient bench player. Now, you also have just more depth. You got Romeo Lankford, who's low risk, high upside type of player. We'll see what we get from Romeo Lankford this upcoming season. I'm pretty sure Lankford is the guy who dropped like back-to-back 40-pointers in the NCAA tournament right before he got drafted. And then you have all your draft picks, and you actually have technically the most like successful player in the G League. What is it? G League or is it Overtime Elite? Dan Barlow. So he's an enticing player to have. And then your 3 first round, or your 3 what year is it? Your 3 2022 draft picks. Blake Wesley, who's going to be a nice little backup guard for you guys. Malachi Branham, who's going to be a nice little backup small forward, most likely for Vassell. And then you got Jeremy Sohan, who can realistically guard 1 through 5. And he's one of the best defenders, if not the best defender in the draft. And you are going to really see just how elite two-way I think he can be in the future this upcoming season. So where do I have San Antonio this upcoming season? I mean, maybe they'll get to around 30 wins, but this is a year you want to tank. I mean, look at the roster, bro. You got nothing but young talent. This upcoming draft class, this upcoming free agency, apparently it's the best we've seen in like a decade at least. So you want a top draft pick. You want Vic. If you're able to draft Vic, it's over. San Antonio's looking really good at that point. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed it, like button, sub button. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you for 13.5K. We're trying to hit 15K at some point in 2022. So if you're new here, you enjoyed it, hit that sub button. But yeah, if you want more Spurs content, drop it down below. But as always, man, Spurs fans, like, you guys are literally awesome. So I know you'll run up these comment section. I love reading your opinions, getting your takes, and learning more about the Spurs. Peace, yo.